Howdy there, folks. I'm Quinn of Snazzy Labs, and this is the retro review of Game Boy Camera. Now, Game Boy Camera was announced in late 1997 and made it to the Japanese market in early 1998. It came to the US market in June of 1998, and I, Quinn, that snazzy iPhone guy, got my very own Game Boy Color for Christmas in 1998 at 6 years old. I loved this thing to death because it gave you a camera in a Game Boy. Now, digital cameras were certainly not the norm back in the day, and in fact, consumer digital cameras had only been on the market for about a year and a half to 2 years. Now, the reason this thing was so amazing was the size. In 1999, this was given the Guinness Book of World Records smallest digital camera award. Pretty amazing back in the day. Furthermore, I just want to, again, touch on how unusual digital cameras were in the market. Film was still very much the norm. Cell phones didn't have digital cameras by any means. And in fact, cell phones, most of them didn't even have color displays. I mean, this was ahead of its time when it came out. Now, it wasn't cheap. It cost $99 US, which with inflation is about $140, and it didn't take great quality photos by any means. It shot in 4-bit grayscale. There was black, gray, light gray, and white. And then it also shot in a very, very low 128 by 112 resolution. So this thing was certainly by no means the greatest digital camera back in the day, but it was the smallest, and you could plug it into your Game Boy. Now, as you can see, this has to be one of the weirdest Game Boy applications and games I've ever played. You go to the main screen and there's Mario right here just dancing about. You can press the up button and he dances faster. You can push the down button and he dances slower. It's very, very bizarre. And there were only a few things you could do with this. Now, if you went to the shoot mode, this is where you actually shot pictures. There were a few menu items here. All of them were rather weird, especially the run button. If you put this, you are now crossing the equator. That's all it did. So it was really, really weird. Like, this thing was probably the weirdest thing Nintendo ever made. Now, you could go to the shoot menu, and this is where you would take your pictures. It held a whopping 30 pictures total. As you can see, the quality on here is less than stellar. I'm going to take a quick snapshot of myself, and I'm going to do it with the Game Boy Advance upside down because that's how I need to do it to capture the picture. Hold on just a second here. All right, there I am in all my glory. There we are. So that's pretty ridiculous, right? There were 30 pictures available. We could save this, which we're going to do. You could also change the contrast and the brightness on hand, which was kind of cool. You could go to the items section, and what the items section allowed you to do, this guy, what's up with this guy? I am the man. What he allowed you to do was do a self-timer or time-lapse. So you could say, okay, take a picture in 10 seconds. Or you could do a time-lapse to capture those beautiful sunsets you'd always been looking for in 4-bit grayscale. Now, you could choose the interval anywhere from 1 to 60 seconds, and you could do as many exposures as the Game Boy camera could possibly hold. Now, if we go back another menu, we can go into the magic section. This was a little bit of fun. You can have trick lenses like this one, which are kind of inverted. Certainly nothing that was special even back then, but still fun to play with. There were montages where you could snap other people's heads on top of each other. That was kind of fun. You could go to a game face mode, and you could actually take a picture of you so that you appeared on the face of the games, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. And then there was panorama mode. And what panorama mode allowed you to do is, well, capture panoramas. Even when I was in the best of circumstances, I couldn't get panorama mode to work to save my life. It was just horrible, and the camera's really, really, really bad. Let's go back to the main menu. You can hit check right here, and this will just allow you to see all your pictures. Since I only have one, that's all there is. We can go back now to the main menu into the view mode. Now, what view allowed us to do was either show a slideshow, an animation, or a hotspot. Just look at the menus here, though. This is like really, really bizarre, even for Nintendo. It was a lot of fun, but it's kind of nostalgic nowadays, but back then you were like, what in the heck are these guys doing over there in Japan? If we go into the album mode, you can see your actual photos, and this is where you could edit them. This is where you had a lot of fun. If you press the select button, You could have the choose to print it. Now, it did work with the Game Boy printer. The Game Boy printer was a thermal printer that printed these pictures on what appeared to be a receipt. I don't have the Game Boy printer to demonstrate, but my, was that a lot of fun. I also got the Game Boy printer for that Christmas, and I had a lot of fun printing that stuff out. Now, you can go in here and paint. The paint is very basic. You only have one color, black, and the paint capabilities in here are nothing too spectacular. But as you can see, you can go ahead and paint. We're going to say no. And yes, exit. But you can see it's really bizarre. All the menus are different and all sorts of weird stuff. You can also go into the stamp mode where you can put a bunch of eyes and other goofy things on there. Certainly fun to play with back in the day. So we'll save that. And then you could press select again. You could put it in a frame, which was kind of nice. There weren't a ton of frames, but you could do it. And then you could also comment. So you could write like little text bubbles and all that other stuff. And then delete. Watch how long it takes to delete a photo. Of course, with any Game Boy game, it did have great sound and great music, but it just really was a really bizarre game. Now, play was the fun section. This is where you could have a good time. If you didn't hit any of these bubbles in the first bit of the game, you would start playing Space Fever, which was obviously a great game. And you could go about shooting things up. Now we could exit this and press the play button again, and you can hit one of these three domes. Now if we hit this one before it goes away, I gotta start over. You gotta be kind of fast, or just not looking through a camera. Okay, so now we're in this section. This is really bizarre. This is where your game faces comes into play. You could put your face on the game, and this made it kind of weird, but a lot of fun. The games, again, were very, very retro. Certainly nothing too graphic intensive. We're not talking LA Noire here. This was back in the day. We can also hit the exit button on here. Crush, we died. See, look at this stuff, though. This is so weird, even for Nintendo. It was really bizarre, this game console was. Rather, this game. If we hit this one, we could go into this other game where we're like a little runner and we have to jump over the certain obstacles in the way. You'd have to hit A in rapid succession to get your acceleration, and then you hit the up button to jump. It's just so bizarre, even for Nintendo. This was like the weirdest stuff ever. This game was never very challenging. Oh, I just hit a barricade. Okay, maybe it's challenging now. And then you could go into play one last time, and there was a DJ game where it wasn't even really a game. It was like an actual DJ studio, and you could change a lot of stuff, like the gain on songs and a bunch of crazy stuff. It's pretty wild. So you can DJ here. You can also hit the select button and go into the board where you could like see the piano. You could change the gain, the tempo, the timing, all sorts of really, really wild stuff. Anyway, this was all you could do on the Game Boy camera. It had to be one of the weirdest titles Nintendo ever released. The sales on this were nothing too superior, but it was revolutionary back in the day for being such a low price for such a tiny camera. Again, the pictures were absolutely wretched, 128 pixels by 112. But it took pictures, and you could plug it into any Game Boy that was made instantly into a digital camera. I'm Quinn of Snazzy Labs. If you have any other retro items that you have laying around your house that you want to send to me to do a review on, you can send me an email to q@snazzylabs.com. If you want your item back, we can work something out. And if you have something really cool that I want to review, I'd be more than happy to work out something so I can send it back to you. But this was the retro review of this. For more, stay tuned, stay subscribed, comment, rate, and a whole lot more. Thanks for watching, guys. And as always, stay snazzy. See you later, folks.